somebody we haven't seen in a really, really long time. So I haven't heard her speak for a while, so I'm very, very much looking forward to it. So our very first speaker is somebody who used to daydream about eventually getting a degree. And again, another member who managed to have a dream come true. I believe she's going to be telling us about it tonight. Her speech is number 2 from the Competent Communicator Manual. The objectives of her speech are basically to have an opening, a body, and a conclusion, and to organize the speech. And the name of her speech is called Attending University as a Mature Student. Please welcome Ellen Hughes.
Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, I believe we can make our dreams become a reality, even when we don't have a clue when we start out how they're going to come to fruition. In 1991, I was in a workshop in the States, and we did a goal poster. And I put on there a person with a graduation hat, because I'd always had this dream to go to university. Me, go to university. I was 30 years old, I had 3 little kids, I was on my own, I was single, I had a business, I was a paramedic, and I lived 4 hours away from the closest university. In 1993, I moved myself and my boys to Prince George and hoped that eventually I would be able to go to the University of Northern British Columbia. A year and a half later, I actually started. I started doing 2 courses per semester. And I was working on the ambulance, I was working days and nights, and I had to be on the ambulance so much that I worked through getting sick reading while I was on car, so that I could be in the back with the patient and reading, either, you know, if it was a long transfer, or if I was coming home from a call, if I could read in the front and study. I remember my first exam in university. It was just a multiple choice, but it was so hard. I walked out and I just started crying, and I said to my girlfriend, I said, that was so hard. And she laughed at me, but I just, as a first exam in university, I felt it was very difficult. When we got the marks back, I had 74% and I was mortified. I went to the professor and I said, this is just awful. I said, how can I raise this mark? And he said, well, you know, really it's not so bad. But he said, you know, if you want to do something, start a study group in your home. So I did. I got 5 other mature students. We started a study group in my home, and out of 120 students, we were the top 6 people, top marks. We all got A+, and we all did that again the next semester as well. Then in May of 1996, I had an incident happen that really made me determined to get my degree. I was working on the ambulance, a night shift one night, and in the morning, it was 7:45. I woke up startled out of a sleep, and I looked at my watch and it was 7:45. And I laid back down again, and I actually fell asleep again. And then all of a sudden I had this thing happen to my body, and I just came up out of bed, and I was sitting there at the end of the bed looking out the window, and I looked at my watch and it was 8 o'clock on the dot. And then I felt this whoosh of power just go right through my body. And I stood up and I got dressed. And I was walking around the station, and I thought, I can't feel my feet. It's like I'm walking 2 feet off the ground. And then I heard a voice say, Ellen, since you were 13 years old, you've given your life away. No more. Go to school. I drove home, and as I walked in the door, the phone was ringing, and it was my mother, and she said that my grandmother had passed away. And I said, what time? She said 8 o'clock on the dot. Shortly after my grandmother's death, I crashed an ambulance and I hurt my back. I was off for a year, and then I went back for a year, and then I was in Emerge one night, and I just lifted a little old lady the wrong way, and I felt something in my back, and I knew my career was over. But I knew also that it was going to give me a chance to focus full-time on my studies. Going to university wasn't easy. had another marriage during that time, a divorce. I had all kinds of heartbreak with my ex-husband and my boys, financial problems, and WCB helped with that, and student loans. But anyways, I knew through all of that I was gonna make it through, and it helped that as mature students, right through the time we went to university, we held each other up by the armpits through everything we were going through. And we had fun, we partied with the professors, and drank a lot of good wine to get us through as well. Everything came together, and on May 25th, 2001, actually exactly 5 years to the day that my grandmother died, I walked across the stage and got my degree. And she was there for that as well. 2 days before the ceremony, I'd been looking through papers and I'd come across a paper that I was supposed to fill out in order to walk across the stage, and I hadn't filled it out. And I called one of my best friends who was living with the dean, and I said, Pat, what am I gonna do? I didn't fill the paper out. And she said, oh, Ellen, she said, I don't know if they're gonna let you walk across the stage, but in the morning, go and see Alex, the registrar. So I went to him and I said, Alex, I never filled that paper out. And he said, well, he said, before we panic, let's have a look in the book. And he got the book, and my name was in there. And I said, but I didn't fill out the paper. And he says, well, I'll check into that for you. Anyways, I went home, I walked through the door, I was in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, and my mom starts banging on the door. I had 14 people come from all over the province. I was worried I wouldn't be able to walk across the stage. She's banging on the door. She said, Ellen, she said, something just happened. It's never, like while you were gone, it happened. It's never happened to me before. And I said, well, just wait. And I went out and I said, what happened? She said she was sitting there, and Winwood, my grandmother, had said to her, don't worry about Ellen. She'll be walking across the stage. And I went back to the university later that afternoon. The registrar caught up with me in the hallway, and he said, Ellen, he said, no one in the office knows who filled out your paper. He said, you got someone watching out for you. And I know that. My education dreams don't end there. In February, I'm turning 50 years old. In September, I'm starting at the University of Northern British Columbia on my master's degree. And ultimately, God willing, I plan to do my PhD and be Dr. Ellen Hughes before I'm 60 years old. Thank you.